And hello, everybody. Welcome to The Strip Show, Episode 3. My name is Stefan, joined by Brandon, as always. Welcome back, everyone, and hopefully you are having a great week. We have some things to get into. Not a whole lot this time, but we do have some good stuff to cover here. And if you haven't, or if you didn't listen to the last episode, hopefully you guys read both the Court of Owls and so that would be Batman New 52, the first volume, and Wonder Woman's first volume called Blood. So hopefully you guys read that because we're going to review those on the show today. But if you're not into that, well then hopefully at least enjoy our review. But I would encourage everybody to give it a try. And yeah, I'm going to say that every time because, comics are great. Graphic novels are good. So give them a try.
These are carefully selected. We put thought into this, so we make sure that it's it's very topical.
Sure.
Something
sure.
that just everyone would enjoy.
Yep. Indeed. And yeah, leading into Batman vs Superman. So let's tackle the trailers first. Let's start with the first one, Civil War, since that came out a little bit earlier. Man, I feel like it's a safe bet to say this is going to be the superhero movie of the year. I mean, we haven't seen anything on Doctor Strange, so we don't have anything to judge off of that. So it's a little unfair to even include that in this. But man, Civil War, in my opinion, for me, looks really, really good. As much as I want to like Batman vs Superman the most, because obviously I'm a big Batman guy. And I'm excited for the start of a new Batman, which will lead into Ben Affleck doing his own trilogy and all that goodness. So I'm totally down for that, and I'm super excited for that. But in terms of just using the trailer alone, trailers, I should say, it's hard to beat that last Civil War trailer. I mean, they are doing... I thought the first Civil War trailer was decent. Not great. It was decent. But man, this one... it sold me, and everything looks really, really good. Cap is as wonderful as always, and I'm a big fan of Cap, so as big of a Batman fan as I am, Cap is kind of like that for me on the Marvel side. Well, I mean, X-Men are in a lot of ways, but in the more recent years, Cap has kind of taken up that interest level and that desire to see him, and his movies have been really, really good, so... Yeah, that trailer looked really great. I love the callback to... I Can Do This All Day from the first Captain America movie. Some good stuff there. And one thing that always... I think it was in the first trailer as well, but I love the scene where Tony, Iron Man, puts on like the little hand part of his suit or whatever, because it's just like assembling itself. And Winter Soldier has the gun in his hand, and they're like kind of going back and forth and fighting. He grabs the gun and puts his hand right over the barrel, basically, the hand with his suit part on it. And... Winter Soldier pulls the trigger, and that look from Robert Downey Jr. just did a really, really good job at selling the emotion in this. Like, what the fuck? You just shot at me. Like, you were just about to kill me. Like, that look was... I mean, that look was golden.
Yes, no, it was, yeah.
I mean, that part of the trailer is one of my favorite parts, and it's such a minor part, but it rings so strongly about what the stakes are here and how, how high the tensions are going that Winter Soldier literally shot at Iron Man point blank. And his, like I said, Robert Downey Jr.'s reaction to that, his facial reaction to that is just tremendous. But how are you feeling about the trailer?
I agree. I think it looks fantastic. I think, a little bit more so strongly about the previous trailer than I think you did. I was really taken aback by the three-way fight with the Winter Soldier, Captain America,
Right.
and Iron Man. When I saw that, I was like, "Holy shit! They're going for broke here. They're not holding anything back." And
Right.
I think it's this is probably the movie out of the entire year that I'm the least worried about, just because.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know if you've seen Jim Brewer's comedic bit about the Wiggles, but whenever the Wiggles come on TV, the kids just go fucking nuts. That's the way I am with Tony Stark and Captain America. If they're on screen and they're talking, I'm always having a good time. That's probably why I liked Age of Ultron better than everyone else did.
Sure.
I just have a blast, and that's what they sold me on. It's going to be these two doing their thing and doing it for quite a long runtime. From what I understand, the runtime for this movie It's going to be the longest to date for any Marvel production
Right.
yet.
It's like 2.5 hours or so, somewhere around that ballpark.
Like 237 or something. It's
Yeah,
just
that
barely
sounds
over
about
the
right.
mark.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited to see the Vision. We got a little bit more of him in the trailer.
Yeah, he was
Um,
fucking getting like dominated by Scarlet Witch. I was all about that. I like Scarlet Witch.
because those are both very broken
Oh
characters
yeah,
as far
they're
as
gonna
Marvel
fight it
goes.
out. Thank God. I gotta say, thank God for Scarlet Witch being on Cap's side, because that is one lopsided team. Cap has like all the human, like the humans with just increased abilities, but and Iron Man has the Vision, has Black Panther, has War Machine,
He's
and
only got one low tier, and that's War Machine, and he gets his back blown out in the trailer. So that
right,
tells you something right there, you know.
right.
So
So yeah, it's pretty. Thank God Scarlet Witch is on that side because she's quite freaking powerful herself. So that kind of helps counterbalance it a bit.
and I like the Scarlet Witch. I think she was one of the more interesting parts of Age of Ultron before the movie came out. To me, that was one of the big mysteries: is what are they going to do with the Scarlet Witch? And I really liked how they handled her, so that's going to be interesting.
Right.
This trailer probably didn't blow me away as much, just because I think the initial the impact kind of already took its toll with the previous trailer. That was already kind of blown away. I couldn't really be blown away more. I already knew they were going to fight. I already knew everyone was going to take sides. I think Black Panther looks a lot better, but I mean, there was nowhere to go but up. We saw almost nothing of him in the last trailer, so he looks really good.
Yeah, he definitely looks really, really good. That's gonna be a strong debut for him. Hopefully, they garner a lot of interest for his individual film down the road.
Well, I mean, they just tell you so much in the little you see of him. They show him crying over the destruction in a country I can't remember the name.
Yeah, I forget the name. It starts. I feel like it starts with a T, I believe, right?
Maybe there's a lot of consonants in it. I remember that.
Let's look it up real quick. Do, 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 do. This is me typing quietly. Black Panther. Um, but no, T's. I was thinking T'Chilla, but that's his name, so that's where I was getting that from. Let's see. Where is he from? Still looking it up here. Predates Black Panther. Derp, 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 and here we go. And okay. Where are you from, sir?
Isn't he like the president of the country too?
He holds a high place. He's like a king or something, I think. Yeah. Yeah, he's a king. Still trying to find where he's from. Where the hell? What is the name of their land?
It's literally in Age of Ultron, but I cannot remember the name like at all.
Yeah. Oh, Wakanda. There we go.
Wakanda. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds familiar. But yes,
I am so sorry about that. We're gonna just quiet that. There we go.
no,
Cool.
I'll just fix it in post. It's like at the 8:20 mark. All right. But anyways, yeah, no, he looks really good. He's just taking he's taking the shots from the helicopter, which just looks great because obviously he's just completely unaffected. Like, I don't give a fuck. And when he's chasing Winter Soldier on the bike, it looked really, really cool.
I am so sorry about this. Well, the problem is, it's my phone, even though it's on silent, it's linked to my iPad. So
See, now now I can't take it out because it's too funny to take out.
Okay.
This is happening.
It's in a case, so I'm not really seeing the silence button. Let's just turn these bad boys off. We're just gonna turn this bad boy completely shut down.
Please
with no
stand
power.
by.
This is so unprofessional. I feel horrible.
You're doing all right.
I hope so.
Hang in there, kitty.
But yes, Black Panther looks really good. It looks like he's on Tony's side, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah, and I would imagine there's going to be some side switching like the comics because there's at least a couple people that start on one side and end up on the other. So I would not be surprised through the course of the movie if we see a couple people change sides. Granted, there's a lot less people in here than there is in the actual Marvel Civil War, so perhaps it's only like one on each side or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. So
If I'm not mistaken, I think Spider-Man jumps sides a couple times in the comics. I don't remember. It's been a long time, so I could just be completely wrong about all of this. But
well, I imagine he would. If I had to put money on who would switch sides, my money would probably be second on Spider-Man, first on the Black Widow. Um, so that's what I am at. I've never read the comics. My friend Jason actually bought him the Civil War novel for as a Christmas present. So I'd be curious what he thinks of it.
interesting.
Although I don't think he's read it because I think he has like all the '90s Batman on his tablet. And I don't think he's read a single issue yet. Just
Yeah,
because I know the feeling. I'm the same way. It is so hard to get motivated to do something when it's
yeah,
just handed to you like that.
sure.
So yeah, I think it looks really good, really safe. I mean, even if it's not amazing, I'm still gonna have a good time. Like it's so lovable. The characters are so much fun.
I love when Hawkeye shoots his arrow and Ant-Man's riding on it. It goes right
I
to the
forgot
glove.
about
Oh, that
that.
is an awesome scene.
Have you seen Ant Man yet?
Yep, I did see
Okay,
Ant-Man a
that's
couple
right.
weeks ago.
Well, Paul Rudd's performance is a lot of fun, and him interacting with the characters
Oh
in
yeah,
Ant Man is a lot of fun. So seeing him and Tony Stark fucking riff together is gonna be
it's gonna
just
be
a
great. It's
blast.
gonna be like Anchorman. You're gonna have some great stuff from him because he's always funny in the movies he's in. So for sure. But yeah, that pretty much covers it for the trailer. Looks great, a lot of great moments, and of course, Spider-Man debuts. I guess we should talk about him a little bit before we move on, because that was kind of beyond just the hype of the trailer itself and seeing some more footage and the greatness of it being all cut together the way it was. They obviously finally showed off Spider-Man as Tony Stark yells out under ruse, and he flips onto the thing, takes Captain America's shield. But yes, and he looked really good, and he sounded like a kid, which is accurate because he should be in high school, so it makes sense. It doesn't. It's for once they're actually got like a 15-year-old to play the character instead of like a 25-year-old that's playing like he's in high school. So that's good. It's going to be an interesting dynamic having a kid on the team or just kid basically going back and forth with these adults. But also, above all else, his suit looked great. I love the way his suit looks. Probably I'd have to say it's too early to tell, but I think that looks the best it's ever looked. It's probably the most comic book like it's ever looked, being actual cloth instead of like the latex that kind of was in the other Spider-Man movies. And I love the big thing, obviously, being the eyes, how they move. They actually move, but it's not done in the Deadpool sense where they move for no real reason other than it's just like CGI. If you look closely, it actually has like a mechanism in it where it expands and contracts. It's like a lens and like a camera lens or something like that is the best way to describe it, I'd say. And you can actually hear it whirling, like whirling, whatever you want to use to describe that as it moves. I would imagine, like, how does a high school kid have that high tech of a suit? Probably Tony Stark has something to do with that, especially if he's on his side, which it looks like going into the movie that's the case. But
That'd be
yes,
preferable, but I have a feeling that's not what they're gonna do. I feel like Spider-Man is gonna be like his own island, and they're gonna run into him when he's already established. I think I've never really been sold on the Peter Parker high school student doing like hardcore engineering shit. Like I've never really felt comfortable with that concept. I always like Tony Park. Well, I mean Tony Parker. Fuck. I've
talking's
always
hard today.
no, it's a challenge. Peter Parker as like a dude in his late 20s, I think is closer to what I grew up with a Spider-Man cartoon. So that's my comfort zone. 15-year-old Spider-Man is still kind of a weird concept to me. High school
Sure,
Spider-Man was still kind of a weird concept to me, even back in the early 2000s. I like it. I'll say this: it's good enough. I'm not sure if I like the costume better than the older costumes, just because I need to see it in action. I love the pose, but I need to see how it moves. I need to see like I mean, just walking around and talking to the other heroes is going to be a big
yeah. It's gonna be interesting because
yeah.
as far as I know, the Spider-Man movie made by Sony to follow up, which will be the same Spider-Man, same actor, and everything, is going to be produced by Marvel, so hopefully it's produced enough and they have enough say to make it good. And it's not going to be just like Marvel's borrowing it and they have say when he's under their umbrella, but as soon as it goes back to Sony, it's back to Sony doing whatever the hell they want. I hope that's not the case.
Possible, but I don't think likely because I don't think Marvel would have agreed to the terms with Sony if they didn't have script approval. Because that's what fucked Ant-Man so hard. I don't mean the sense the movie was bad, but that's what put Ant-Man in such a huge production hell was that Marvel kept reworking the script.
Right.
And Edgar Wright just got sick of it. He just was done.
Yeah.
That's what Marvel does. They put their fingers in every crevice and every hole until you hate them.
Sounds kinky.
It is, and
it also sounds like Saturday night.
I mean, you have to be pretty fucking kinky to weird out Edgar Wright, so that's
Sure.
the way that the stream flows. But that turned out for the better. Edgar Wright is a stylistic director. I don't think he's necessarily good for every project. I think Ant-Man was probably better for him being off board.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think the ink would have touched the paper if Marvel didn't have at least script approval. At least. So
yeah, I mean, we can only hope. But yeah, that covers the trailer, and let's move on to X-Men. I have not so much to say about this. I'm a big fan of X-Men. I love First Class. I mean, I love the classic X-Men movies too, the 1 through 3, obviously 3 being the worst and the one that most people absolutely despise. I didn't despise it. I think it was not nearly on the same level as the others. It was mediocre at best, but I still found things to enjoy out of it. I mean, I still got to see certain characters for the first time. Beast being one of them, played by Kelsey Grammer, which was a great fit. So I took silver linings out of that movie and enjoyed it for what it was. I don't shit on it like other people, but yes, it was not a good movie by any means. It was entertaining. I will give it that. And as an X-Men fan, like I said, it was great to see certain characters. But anyways, going off on a tangent, I love First Class. I liked what they did with Days of Future Past, and I'm hoping this is along the same lines, just with the First Class crew and introducing Cyclops and Jean Grey again for the first time. So, and Nightcrawler. It's great to see Nightcrawler and Psylocke and all the other characters they're introducing for the first time in this new kind of the old timeline, so to speak, or new time. However, it's fucking confusing. Like
it's a
Deadpool says.
Yeah.
But no, it looks good. And Apocalypse, I'm not entirely sold on quite yet, but I have an open mind about his portrayal thus far. I'm liking the way Magneto looks. I'm liking the way Psylocke looks. I like how Storm has the mohawk. I like the little scene we see from Psylocke and Nightcrawler and Cyclops and Jean Grey in the new trailer. The only thing that worries me a little bit, because it all looks good thus far, or at least decent or okay at the very worst. The one thing that worries me is in this new trailer we see Mystique leading the team, and I really hope that's not the case. She's given kind of the, all right, you guys are X-Men, this is, be true, mutant and proud, and all that nonsense jargon, and I'm like, don't do this. Don't. Please, and I have no problem with Jennifer Lawrence. I enjoyed her as Mystique in First Class. I enjoyed her as Mystique in Days of Future Past. I had no problem with it. But now we're getting to the point where she's basically the female Wolverine, and she's going to get, 70% of the attention while the others have to all vie for 30%. And if that's the case, that's really, really, really going to suck. If you're going to introduce the likes of Cyclops and those characters, they are prominent. Cyclops himself is a prominent character that got completely screwed in the original trilogy because, they jumped on the Wolverine train and made him the cool guy and went everything with him, and then they just basically shat all over Cyclops' face, just like a big fucking spray shit right on his face. Like, he open-mouthed it and everything and took it right in, ate the whole thing up and then he just died in the third movie like nobody's business, so, I like Cyclops as a character, so obviously that's coming from personal bias. Well, I mean, it's not even personal bias. Cyclops is the leader of the X-Men, and yes, maybe he doesn't need to be the leader here because he's just being reintroduced, but then again, it's a time jump from Days of Future Past, so maybe he should be the leader. Either way, Mystique...
I mean, when are they going to do it if they're not going to do it now? I feel like we're running out... I feel like Cyclops is running out of chances to be awesome.
Sure, and Mystique should not be the leader because she's not with the X-Men in the long run. It doesn't make any sense for her to be the leader. She should be a supporting cast member just like the rest. Just because Jennifer Lawrence has gotten more popular because of the Hunger Games, etc., does not mean we should base this movie around her character. I like Mystique. Mystique is in my top 10 female comic book characters. I like Mystique. But at the same time, it should not be based. This is the X-Men. This is not the Brotherhood. She should be she she should be a supporting character just like the rest, and then base it around the actual core X-Men. And there you go. Everybody in the as much as possible should be getting equal screen time in terms of the actual X-Men characters. Mystique should not be getting 70% like Wolverine did. That, to me, I did not like Wolverine getting that much in the old timeline because none of the other characters got fleshed out nearly as much as they should have. And all they do by doing that is basically have one super popular character like Wolverine, and in this case Mystique, and then all the other characters are trying to, fight for their 5 minutes of screen time to, hopefully make people fans of them. And that's not a good way to present your characters. You should want all of them to be popular. I mean, look at Colossus for a great example. There's a classic X-Men character that's really, really cool and deserves a lot of praise. And unfortunately, his best portrayal was in a movie that's not even an X-Men movie.
Yeah, and I've said this a billion times on the podcast, but he has one word, not even a line, but a fucking word of dialogue in Days of Future Past, and I 50% agree with you. I agree that I don't think Mystique is interesting enough to hold the torch for the movie, in my opinion. I'm sort of fatigued on Jennifer Lawrence. I think she is a good actress, but I'm a little fatigued. Much in the same way I was fatigued with Christian Bale. I think a lot of people were 5-6 years ago. When Terminator Salvation came out, I was just so done with Christian Bale, Jennifer Lawrence is much the same way. I'm actually very much pro dominant Wolverine. I like the idea that Wolverine was the centerpiece of X-Men 1 and 2. I don't think it was his fault that the other characters got overshadowed. I think that was just genuine bad writing. Bryan Singer is kind of like a Zack Snyder, someone who I know is capable of doing great things, but very often, for whatever reason, does not. We'll see what happens with Batman v Superman, but Bryan Singer has fucked up so many characters in the past, and this trailer did not make me more hopeful for this movie. If anything, I am more pessimistic than I've ever been for Apocalypse. Before I get into Psylocke, I'll just finish up with Jennifer Lawrence. Like I said, I don't think she's interesting, and I don't think that's what people want to see when they go to an X-Men movie. Unless you're just a hardcore Jennifer Lawrence fan. And Psylocke, I had a feeling she was going to be one of the Four Horsemen back when I saw the picture of her next to Apocalypse. Part of me was trying to stay optimistic, but no, it looks like that's the way they're going. She is going to be one of the...
Did you just realize that? Because that's been known
I just
for a
realized
while.
it. I had a feeling. First of all, I don't really follow the comics, so I don't know if she was ever one of the Four Horsemen in the comics. I don't know.
I think she was,
but it just tells me she's going to get shafted in the development area. Unless they pull like a Hawkeye, and at the very end of the movie, she gets her mind back and she's a fucking badass. But Bryan Singer's resume does not tell me that's going to be the case. Bryan Singer has fucked up so many characters in the past. He has fucked up Mystique. Let's just start there. Mystique was horrible in the first movie. Awful. Just badly written, had almost no lines of dialogue. They didn't cast a high-level actress to play her. He fucked up. Yeah. The first
wasn't the Rebecca Romaine Mystique?
I thought she was awful. Okay, she was fine, but the script, the way the character was written,
well, she's still a decent actress, though. Not. I don't know if she's a decent actress. I know she's well known, though.
You could have put Marlon Brando from 1940s in that role, and it still would have been so badly written, there was no saving it. Yeah, she's fine. Nothing against Rebecca. I think she's a decent actress, but the character was just so poorly written. You could put Sabretooth and Wolverine in the same movie, and there's no chemistry. There's no rivalry. You fucked up Sabretooth. Just, oh my god. Okay, maybe you can make a case for Rebecca Romaine. You cannot make a case for that fucker who played Sabretooth, okay? he was a wrestler. He's not even an actor.
It was the same guy that played Michael Myers in Halloween 2 remake or reboot or whatever.
I'm sure he's a great guy in real life, and I'm sure if he had actually had lines in the movie,
Tyler Mane, I think is his name.
That's a very fitting name, actually. That's if
name.
someone's replaced it.
Let's
super
check.
appropriate.
I gotta check that because that's pretty funny.
Yeah, okay, so Mystique, Sabretooth, Lady Deathstrike, again, two characters part of the Weapon X project. No chemistry, no substantial dialogue. She's a fucking drone. That was fucked up. Cyclops, just Bryan Singer does not have the best resume when it comes to writing decent characters. And now finally Psylocke, my favorite X-Men, is making an appearance. It's worrisome. You know, Psylocke being one of the Four Horsemen is not one of the things that makes Psylocke interesting. But I don't follow the comics. Maybe this movie will change my mind. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to keep an open mind. We're just going to have to see, I guess. But he's hit and miss. He did a brilliant job with Nightcrawler. Like, although really that credit probably belongs more to David Hayter than it does to Bryan Singer. But Bryan Singer's a director. Whatever shows up on screen, he's accountable for. That's what a director's job is, in my opinion. So Nightcrawler was brilliant.
He did a decent job with him, but man, is he underutilized.
True.
Nightcrawler's in one of those. He's easily making most people's top 5 X-Men, in my opinion.
He's just
Nightcrawler is
so
very popular. He's up there with the Gambits, the Wolverines, Iceman,
he's not a gimmick like
etc.
Gambit. Gambit had sort of a heyday. Nightcrawler didn't. Nightcrawler has been very consistently popular.
Yeah, Gambit was more 90s, early 2000s. He's definitely
crowd,
died down.
really.
Yeah.
So I mean, just like I said, super hit and miss. It's a shame. It sucks being a director because if it turns out good, you only get 33% of the credit. But if it sucks, you're 100% at fault. That's my rule book. Because if it's good, the actors to thank, the writers to thank, and the directors to thank. If it's bad, well, the director's the person who gave the green light and put that shit on films, and it's their job to say cut when something is sucking. If that's their job, in my opinion.
Sure.
So yeah, I just don't have a lot of faith in Bryan Singer, and the trailer is not a good sign for Psylocke right now. And she's the main reason I'm purchasing a ticket because she's just picture perfect. She looks almost exactly the way she does in the comic. And that's cool. That if you can do that and make it work, that is the dream of the comic book movie, in my opinion.
Right.
Is to bring these images and stories to life. So, yeah, like I said, I'm going to try to be open-minded. I thought, okay, let me say this, all right? If I say this movie sucks in 3 months, and everyone said, "Oh, Temple, you were going in with a negative attitude. You were pessimistic." Fuck you. No, that's not how it works. Okay, because I felt the exact same way about Days of Future Past. I thought that movie was going to be the biggest piece of shit, and I love it. It's by far the best X-Men movie, in my opinion. So no, there's no excuses, and there's no mercy. If this movie's not good, there's no one to blame but the movie. Or let me rephrase that. If I don't like the movie, then it's the movie's fault. You know, that's 100%. I can do no wrong because I'm amazing, but not really. I'm
Sure.
very my life. I wish I had people.
But no, all right.
But go on, sir.
But no, it looks interesting. Yeah, I'm not entirely sold on it quite yet. I have a lot of I definitely have a lot of worries going into it. Like I said, the Mystique parts, the Apocalypse part, I'm not completely sold on him, what they're going to do. I'm worried about what they're going to do with Cyclops this time around. I'm worried, is Nightcrawler going to be in there for like 5 minutes and that's it? Or is he going to be more of an on-screen presence throughout the movie? I'm worried about that because Nightcrawler is my favorite. I feel like I've said that before at some point when we were doing a graveyard, probably. Nightcrawler is my favorite. And
it's extremely close
in X-Men 2, I feel like I didn't get nearly enough of him, and that's it. That's all we've gotten from him in the live action movies, and that's depressing as hell. So I'm hoping this is the time where, you know, we get like a good 15-20 minutes of screen time. You know, he's with the team throughout and not just there for 2 minutes to do an action scene and then he's out. That would suck. So
well, that's another reason I get all bitchy about Bryan Singer, is because they were talking about getting Nightcrawler at the end of Days of Future Past to show up. And Bryan Singer vetoed it, saying there would just be too many X-Men. Yeah. When we know what's really fucking going on. We know Alan Cummings and Bryan Singer did not get along on set. You know, it's fucking completely transparent to me. So, as I'm sure everyone knows by now, I'm just not the biggest Bryan Singer fan. I think he's super talented when he tries, but man. Oh, Colossus. He had not one but two chances to make him awesome, and he fucked it up. So, yeah, let's...
Well, like I said, I mean, you can say the Wolverine was like good, and I'm not saying that's like an overall excuse. If the other characters were written bad, then they were written bad anyways. But it honestly felt like they gave the entire screen time to like 3 or 4 X-Men characters, and then everybody else was just there in a very minor role. You had Wolverine, you had Iceman, and you had obviously Xavier and Magneto, and then you had maybe throw like Jean Grey and Cyclops into there, but everyone else was just completely fucking there for a cameo. That was basically it.
I think part of that has to do with just the
Oh,
way the
and
first
Rogue.
X-Men
I
was
guess
made.
Rogue was amongst
Rogue
that little
was super flat.
group.
Wasn't terribly happy with Rogue. From what I understand, David Hayter basically wrote the script in parts without any sort of permission from the studio, and Bryan Singer just kept consistently using his material until the studio, when they found out at the last minute that David Hayter wrote like 80% of that fucking script, that they had to give him credit and they had to pay him for it. I think he got like $10,000 for the X-Men script, which is shit from what I understand. I don't know how much writers normally get paid, but
Probably a lot more than that.
yeah, that's not
Considering
amazing.
what they're getting, like
So I
grossing.
think, I mean, it's hard to say, man. I don't know if like if David Hayter had been commissioned to write the script the way I think he was with Watchmen, it would have turned out much better. Although it's hard to give him too much credit for Watchmen because there were so many writers attached to that adaptation. But even though I'm not the biggest Watchmen fan, I thought it was well made. I thought the plot was super solid. Like it's one of those few movies where the plot's amazing, but the story is kind of lacking. Usually it's the other way around. Brilliant story, but the plot's a fucking mess, you know. So
I liked it.
yeah, I did too. I liked Watchmen enough. I wasn't blown away, but I liked the characters. It was fun. I just feel like it needed a little bit more oomph.
All
But
right.
yeah,
Well, let's move on from X-Men. Let's get into Batman vs Superman, another movie that I'm sure we're both a little bit hesitant on so far. Oh man, like I said, Civil War so far is the only movie that I'm almost positive will be a really awesome movie. Batman vs Superman, Suicide Squad, X-Men, and then I think that's it. Other than like I said, Doctor Strange, but I'm not entirely sold on any of those others. Any of these other movies. Suicide Squad looks good, but once again, it's not a guarantee by any means. Nothing like Civil War. And Batman vs Superman right now, I'm so up in the air on because man, I want to love this movie. I'm going in completely wanting to like this movie, wanting to enjoy it because I am somebody that enjoyed Man of Steel. I am one of those rare people. I enjoyed Man of Steel. I don't think Zack Snyder is completely awful. I enjoyed Watchmen as well. I enjoyed 300. So I enjoy his work. I enjoy the cinematography that's usually accompanied with his movies. And I don't know, but the trailers, this last trailer that they put out looks decent, but it looks very different. I don't know what to feel. Like, I don't know if Zack Snyder knows how to handle Batman. And this is coming off of, Nolan's trilogy, which I absolutely loved. So it's difficult for me, and I've read a lot of Batman comics, and this Batman feels weird. It feels different, so I'm not sure what to feel right now. I'm not sure what to feel about the movie. I think my biggest, concern right now is that Lex Luthor is going to absolutely suck, because Jesse Eisenberg, and I'm not somebody that just crapped all over him being cast. I thought it was weird. I wanted Bryan Cranston, but they opted for a much younger Lex Luthor. He just seemed like in the trailer he was just doing a Heath Ledger impression, which doesn't fit Lex Luthor as a character at all. He should be somebody that's commanding. He should be somebody that's, has a deep voice and is very, just kind of has that just very, I want to say stoic presence. He's just kind of there and he's there and he's just a mastermind. This is like, he comes off in the trailers more like a little pipsqueak that's very smart, like a smart little geeky nerd. And the way he talks, like I said, is very Heath Ledgery is like, I forget what the hell he said in the trailer, but he's like, that's just a 4-letter word for blah, blah, blah. And it's like
for an idea too big to fit in small minds or something.
For like, yeah, big idea for little minds or something like that. And he does that little finger thing, his little hand gesture. And it's like, that doesn't seem like Lex Luthor. Like Lex Luthor would stand there stiff as a board and command his presence and say, a very intelligent line, not like some fucking wave his hand in front of your face and tap on your forehead. That's a Heath Ledger Joker thing.
It's a little sassy, yeah. It's
Joker would do something where he's like tapping on your forehead and talking like this, and with that little inflection, and it's just that is not Lex Luthor. So to me, I mean, like I'm saying, if he's good, if he wins me over, great. I hope to be won over because this is the Lex Luthor we're getting, and I'm sure he'll be the same Lex Luthor going forward if they bring the character back in a Superman film. But man, right now I am the least sold on him. The fact that we know Doomsday's in the movie is kind of depressing because to me that's better left as a surprise. Even though we all knew that Batman vs Superman wasn't going to be the entire movie, we all probably had a good idea that eventually they're going to team up and fight a greater good, hence why Wonder Woman is there. And the Justice League assembles at the, towards the end of the movie, I'm sure, and that's what kind of kicks off the Justice League film. But I'm hoping they're still holding a surprise there because we already know Zod turns into Doomsday somehow. Or at least they get the DNA from Zod, which would be better than Zod himself being turned into Doomsday, but I guess we don't know exactly what is what. But so we know that happens. We know they fight. We know they come together at the end. So the whole 3-part act we know of how this movie's going to play out. So I don't know why they revealed that all unless there's an appearance from Darkseid or something even greater that comes about, and I sure hope Doomsday just flees eventually when they're kicking his ass because they should not be beating Doomsday. That should be a storyline for the death of Superman. Because so I just hope they're not shitting the bed here. I hope they're not trying to throw too much against the wall and hope something sticks, because that's how it feels by these trailers. Is we need to catch up to Marvel. Let's throw all of this against the wall. Let's get Doomsday out there. Let's have Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, all, let's have Superman from Man of Steel, but then let's have a new Batman, new Wonder Woman, and then let's cameo Aquaman and Cyborg, etc. at the very, very end of the movie to set up the Justice League, and it's like, oh, please don't suck. Please don't suck. And there's just so many things that are X factors here that I'm not sold on. And one other thing, just the way the movie, the feel of the movie, and the lighting and the cinematography, they're taking inspiration kind of from The Dark Knight Returns, which obviously the story doesn't play out the same, but they're taking the idea of Batman versus Superman. But in the Dark Knight Returns comic book, when Batman is on screen, it's all dark and gloomy and, gritty like you would expect from Batman. And then when Superman's on screen, it's all bright and sunny and, beautiful like you would expect in a Superman type of comic. But for some reason in this movie, it's all gloomy all the time, just like it was in Man of Steel. And it's like, I don't know. I'm so, to me, this should be my movie of the year because of how big I was into the Dark Knight films, how big of a Batman fan I am, and I'm a DC fan at heart. So this has so much to set up. This is setting up the Justice League universe. It's the DC universe on cinematic universe being set up. This is the kick. This is what's kicking it off. This has so much writing on it into the future. This is our next 10 years of film being set up in this movie, and there's so much to lose by them fucking this up. And if they do, I'm going to be very, 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 very disappointed.
But that's precisely what this movie looks like. I look at the trailer for this movie, and it looks like a bunch of producers panicking. That's what this movie looks like to me. And I'm not. This is not quite like Apocalypse. I'm a little more optimistic for this than for Apocalypse. This movie almost can't fail because no matter how good or bad it is, it's going to be so much fun to talk about. And me and my friends worked this out to the last letter. All 9 of us are going. We got a Facebook event going. All our seats are purchased. We literally just have to show up for dinner, and after the dinner, we're heading over to the theater.
Right.
And whatever happens, happens. I'm looking more forward to the event than I am to the movie. And the problems with it, I've already kind of resigned myself to. I've already kind of resigned myself to that we're not getting traditional Lex Luthor. Although how great if they had kept that interpretation of Lex, but put Bryan Cranston in there instead, acting all flamboyant. I think it actually would have worked. Seeing Bryan Cranston just laughing and being an asshole, I'm like, that actually kind of is Lex Luthor.
Well, Bryan Cranston has a hell of a lot of range to him.
Yes.
He's Malcolm's father and Heisenberg.
And the dentist from Seinfeld.
And the dentist from Seinfeld. And he was in Godzilla. He's done drama and he's done comedy. He's done silly and very cheesy, hamming it up and being, very campy showman. He's done it all. But Jesse Eisenberg always plays the same character, kind of like he's just Michael Cera evolved up one level. I'm serious.
I know. I've seen the pictures.
Yes, he's evolved up. He's the war turtle of Michael Cera, and he's slightly better than Michael Cera. He has a little bit more range. I enjoyed him in Zombieland, but holy crap, this guy always plays that awkward teenager, the same as Michael Cera does. He always plays that awkward social outcast, and here it just looks like he's playing a very awkward person, and that's how he is in real life. He's very awkward and not really into people, like being around large crowds or anything. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not necessarily into people either, but
That's a lot of artists, really. Yeah.
my issue is he's just it just doesn't seem like a good casting, and I really hope that's not the case. I hope this. I never doubted Heath Ledger. To me, Heath Ledger, right from the get up, I was open minded to. Same with Ben Affleck. I'm perfectly open minded, and Ben Affleck proved me right in the trailers. I'm completely sold on him, and I was never one to say nay when people were up in arms at his casting. I thought, okay, maybe he could pull it off. But Jesse Eisenberg, so far, all of the trailers have just cast further doubt on me. In fact, I was more optimistic when they first cast him. I was like, okay, maybe this guy can pull it off. But then as soon as the trailers came out, I was like, nope,
Yeah.
nope, this does not work. This does not look right. He looks like a punk kid running his father's business, and that's not what Lex Luthor's about. Maybe this is Lex Luthor Jr., and we just don't know it yet. I don't know, but
That would be such a weird, weird move if they go that direction, though.
to be fair, I guess the only reason I would think that's maybe a possibility is we are having a Batman that is way, way older. So this whole movie's odd because this is Superman when he first becomes Superman. Like right after he first becomes Superman. But it's Batman after he's already a grizzled vet. That is not how it should be. They're supposed to both be on the same timeline. Batman and Superman started off relatively around the same age in the sense of when they were becoming heroes. So for Batman to be like the 45, 50-year-old veteran and Superman to be late 20s, early 30s, that is really awkward. And
Definitely
for Lex
not a good start
Luthor,
for a franchise if you plan on making lots and lots of movies.
right, to start Batman off so yeah, it's really it feels like I said, they're throwing so many things against the wall and hoping something sticks. They're throwing so many ideas. They're taking things from The Dark Knight Returns where it's grizzled Batman up against Superman, and it's like, but then they're doing that as the start of a Justice League with a Lex Luthor that looks like he's late 20s. Everything is all fucking weird here.
Yeah, I've kind of, it's... And as much as I trash on Zack Snyder, I think if this movie is bad, it's not going to be entirely his fault. They did not give him an easy task making this movie at all. And he's not, like I said, he can be good when he wants to be. Watchmen was excellent. When you give Zack Snyder a really good roadmap, he can do great things. I don't know, man. It'd be cool if it is like Luthor Jr. and fucking Cranston comes out at the very end. I'd be like, okay, you got me, good shit. But if that doesn't happen, it is Lex Luthor Jr. and they just recast some random asshole in the next movie, I'd be like, what a fucking cop out, what a lazy ass.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like the Batman vs Superman idea was a one-off. Because why else have Batman be so, old and grizzled veteran? It seemed like they were just trying to distance themselves so much from the Dark Knight trilogy, which doesn't even make sense because the Dark Knight trilogy ended with Batman, Bruce Wayne being older. That was kind of the whole theme of Dark Knight Rises, was that he was older, beat up, and wanting to retire at that point. And now we're picking up with the same age, but it seemed like they were trying to distance themselves from that with the whole new actor and all that stuff. And starting up, but it seemed like the idea of starting up a DC universe off of this movie was a late addition to when this movie was first being created. It doesn't feel like that is a natural next step. It doesn't seem like have Batman versus Superman then form the Justice League. It should have been Batman younger, Superman where he is now, and then create the Justice League. I don't know. there's so many weird things going on at once, so many different factors at play that this is
Well,
either going to be really messy and I'm going to be so disappointed or I'm going to applaud them for actually pulling it off.
I hope at least one of us is happy. Like, I hope at least one of us likes it. It may be me. You might be the one who's disappointed. I think, and let's be honest, I think you have way more to lose than I do in terms of this movie. Because if it's just fun and dumb, I'll probably give it a thumbs up. But
But at
I
the
think you're craving for a good Justice League continuity in a cinematic universe. I mean, it's like Suicide Squad too. I think the stakes are much higher for that movie for you than they are for me. I have nothing really to lose for that movie being bad, but
you
you have an
do,
investment in these. Well, say more.
you have things to lose by Suicide Squad because do you want a JSA movie with the Spectre in it? Do you want a movie with Blue Beetle in it? Do you want any B or C list or D list character to ever have a movie? Then Suicide Squad needs to be good because they are so knee jerk reaction. Look at what happened after Green Lantern was a bomb. They completely just took all their chips way back and stopped betting because they've been doing Batman and Superman for years upon years, yet they can't get their AAA characters out like the Flash, Wonder Woman, and now they're finally doing it. Suicide Squad's going to be their Guardians of the Galaxy in the sense of Marvel, when they made Guardians of the Galaxy and it was a success, as much as it was, they're probably like, hell, we can do anything. We can do Ant-Man. And after Ant-Man was, did decent, now we can make whatever character we want. If people buy a talking raccoon and a tree and a superhero that's the size of an ant and that can lead ants, that's like his power. If they can buy that and get invested in that and interested in that and pay to see that, then we can do any of our characters. DC, on the other hand, can't even get their AAA characters that should be a damn layup right. So if Suicide Squad being the most daring thing that they're doing, cast of villains, and the only notable characters being Joker being whatever notable, appear like whatever amount of screen time he's gonna get, but the rest are, other than Harley, pretty B, C list, D list villains that nobody's ever even heard of for the most part, outside of comic book fans. You are taking a giant risk there, and if it flops, they're not going to make another movie like that for a long, long, long time.
You're not wrong. In a foundational sense, I do have something to lose, but I keep saying the word resigned. I never really. It's one of those no hope, no fear kind of things. I was never confident a Blue Beetle was ever going to be made in the cinematic universe. I was never confident we were going to see this. I imagine, I hate to say it, but if we do see the Spectre, I seriously doubt they'll tie it into the Justice League. It'll probably be its own thing.
Sure.
They'll probably cast Edward Norton, and it'll probably just be this weird kind of dark experiment that probably ultimately won't connect to anything.
But it goes beyond just being tied to the Justice League. If they can't even do their A-list characters right, or B-list in the sense of Suicide Squad with the Joker and Harley being the main cast of characters. I mean, I guess that's technically A-list in terms of Joker and A-list in terms of Harley being what she is, but if they can't do that right, in my opinion, they're not going to take any more chances like that because DC is super, super, like I said, knee-jerk reaction. They're so scared. They're just trying to dip their toe in, and they've been dipping their toe in for years upon years upon years upon years because as soon as they try to put their foot in with Green Lantern, oh, nope, can't do that. That flopped on its face, so let's stick to Batman and Superman, and they realize Marvel is just getting better and better and bigger and bigger, so they're like, oh shit, now we got to get things together. We've been stalling this damn long, so now they're just throwing everything out there at once and doing it the exact reverse way of what Marvel did by starting with all their characters together and then branching off into individual films. It's like they are just panicking now. Now they're just jumping in and hoping they can swim. Like I do not see it going well if Suicide Squad flops, and if Batman vs Superman flops in terms of quality and critical reception. Who knows what the hell is in the future with Justice League?
Yeah, I mean, my flag is already in the air, though. Like, my Blue Beetle flag is already waving, saying I give up. I would like, okay, let me put it this way. If Batman v Superman is amazing and Suicide Squad is amazing, now my cards are on the table. I'm now in the game, I'm dealing in. Then I'm like, okay, now I actually have an investment and I'm worried. Right now, I think even if Suicide Squad is awesome, unless Batman v Superman is awesome as well, it's not gonna matter. So there's too much at stake here. There's too much like I can't wear my heart on my sleeve when it comes to this because there's too much to lose. So I kind of withdraw from it, to be honest with you. I don't want anything to fail. Like I don't want anything to be
I
bad.
don't want anything to fail either.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, but I guess going back to my original point, I hope at least someone likes it, whether it be you, me, Shadaloo, Razor, Django,
Well, I'm sure I'll
Smoke
like it
Man.
for the entertainment purposes.
Yeah, I
I'm.
think I will
You got to
too.
throw in the factor though that I generally like more movies than you do, probably. And
Most likely.
you could throw the rest of the guys in there as well because generally talking, I am much more like it's kind of like X-Men 3 or Spider-Man 3 or any of those movies or Man of Steel, movies that are highly thought to be like really bad or a lot of people didn't like. I was like, I enjoyed it for what it was. I enjoyed Spider-Man 3 for what it was. Yeah, it did a hell of a lot of things wrong and there's a lot of stupid parts, but I was like, I had fun with it. I had fun with X-Men 3, and I really enjoyed Man of Steel, and everybody else that I went to go watch it really enjoyed Man of Steel. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
honestly didn't expect people to hate that movie, but that is the majority. The majority of people do hate that movie, but that's my point is movies that I actually go pay to see are very rarely something I don't enjoy because I'm easy to please in that sense, and I only go see movies that I feel like I'm going to enjoy because I kind of know what I'm getting into before I go in to see it. But Batman vs Superman is a little bit different in the sense that coming off of the Nolan films and with so much writing on this movie and as much stuff as they're trying to set up, there's a lot of things that could really fall apart at the seams. So that's my biggest worry is that I'm going to be looking at another 10 years of a franchise that I don't like and all these spin-off franchises that are built off of a failure. That would really kind of suck.
Well, the good news is there's. I think if Spider-Man 2 proved anything, it's that none of these movies are too big to fail. I thought Spider-Man was going to break the Amazing Spider-Man 2, that is, was going to break records no matter what, and it ended up being just the worst. It was the fucking worst, dude. And thankfully, the numbers actually reflected that,
Yeah.
and it ended up killing what was going to be probably this really awful franchise that was basically stillborn, as far as I'm concerned. And so that inspired a lot of hope in me that movies are not allowed to be bad no matter how hyped or big they are, you know? So hopefully the same is true of this, you know? I mean, I feel kind of guilty that I'm seeing it without prejudice, despite whether it's good or bad, you know? I'm committed to watching a movie that I think may very well not be good and I may not want to support, but I think I've actually gotten a lot better about it. I grew up, my friends were all movie buffs in high school and middle school and elementary school, even. We all had very strong feelings. That's kind of the background I come from. I chilled out, and then Transformers 2 came out, and I just got pissed at the industry again. And I'm like, I gave money to that. I brought a friend with me, and he gave money to it too. I made this shit happen, and even though I didn't see part 3 or 4, it's done. Like I've already done my damage. I can never take that back. So
The
I take
damage
movies
was
very
done.
personally when they're bad. I don't take it lightly at all. I'm better about it now. I've chilled out a lot.
Sure.
You
Sure.
know, it's I'm not quite as. I think this is a good example. You know, I mean, maybe 5 years ago, this would have been so important to me if this movie was good or not. And now I'm just kind of, you know, I hope it's good. But I think a lot of it has to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That is so good. I know that no matter how bad the DC films get, I'm always going to have this brilliant lineup of movies that are never going to go away.
But it's just Marvel though. Like I
That's
want
true.
both to be because there's characters I like in both. There's a lot of good characters in the DC universe that will never see the light of day or we're just going to have to, shovel through crap with the characters we're getting like bad portrayals of said of their AAA characters like a bad Flash, a bad Green Lantern, this or that or the other thing. Like we're never going to see the extended Green Lantern universe with all the other lanterns if this movie flops and they're like, well, nope, let's just take Green Lantern off the schedule for 2020 or whenever it is. It's like,
Well, that's the thing. I think you're half right. I do think eventually we're going to see a brilliant DC cinematic universe. But if this fails, we may have a 25 to 30-year wait, and that would suck.
That's
But
a
yeah,
lot.
I half agree with you for sure. It's inevitable. It's gonna happen, unless they stop making movies one day. If it's like if we're in a fucking police state and you can't make film anymore, maybe then it will happen. But I think eventually we will get a good DC cinematic universe after Marvel has developed its third reboot of their cinematic universe that is also awesome. It may finally happen. But yeah, so you're definitely onto something there. I hope that's not the case. I don't know, man. It would be a tragedy if it never happens. But I mean, as you said, when the race began, when the gunshot went off, DC immediately cramped, and now they have to catch up as fast as they can on a bad leg, and that's what's going on. And they can still do it. They can still get the silver. I don't think they'll get the gold. I think Marvel is basically bathing in gold medals right now, but they can still get the silver, and that's awesome. If we get like a silver quality DC cinematic universe, I'll take it. I'm on board. But they're gonna have to work, dude, and it's not looking good. So, just I don't like saying keeping expectations in check. I really truly believe in my heart of hearts expectations have nothing to do with how I perceive movies. I really believe that. But I'm not I'm dealing with the pain now so I don't have to deal with it later, if that makes any sense.
Sure. All right. Well, let's move on to the comic book reviews. This episode, like I said, we got Wonder Woman Volume 1 for the New 52 and Batman, the main line, not the Dark Knights or Detective Comics or any of that stuff. It's just, or Batman Incorporated, because there's a lot of different Batman books out there currently. It's just called Batman. It's the main one, the main Batman line. It's written by Scott Snyder. Art is by Greg Capullo, or however you pronounce that. But yes, it is Batman Volume 1 of the New 52, and it has the title of the Court of Owls. I figure it's probably best for you to break down Court of Owls, and then I will comment in after you kind of recap it, because it's been a while since I read that, and then
Sure.
I will also be the one to break down Wonder Woman, and you can jump in after I've kind of recapped that, since I just read that. So let's start with Wonder Woman.
Well, I guess before we do that, as usual, listeners, spoiler alert.
Yes,
Giant
of course.
fucking, especially with Court of Owls, huge spoiler alert.
Yep. Definitely spoilers. Check them out, though. All right. Anyways, let's jump into Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was interesting. I didn't really know what to expect. I've heard a lot of people recommend it. I bought it for my fiance a few years back, and because she's a big fan of Wonder Woman, and I currently have it. So as we recommended it, I read it earlier today, and I liked it. It was not as good as I was like. I didn't really have any expectations. A lot of people recommended it as being really good, or a lot of people said, "Oh, it's good, it's really good," or whatever. And I mean, I've read some really really good comics, so I'm kind of comparing it to the likes of the Court of Owls and this and that. So I'm expecting some really intricate writing and maybe some good. I mean, I guess ultimately, I don't know what to expect from Wonder Woman. I don't know how the character is portrayed because I've never read a Wonder Woman comic in my life. I've never just sat down and read a Wonder Woman starred comic other than maybe like her being included in the Justice League or showing up in like Kingdom Come, etc. So I didn't know how this character is going to be written, and it was good. I definitely didn't think it was bad, but it wasn't as good as I was expecting, or I don't know what I expected. Like I said, I was just kind of comparing it to other books that I thought were really really good. So my definition of what's really good. But anyways, let's recap it real quick. You start off with Wonder Woman, and actually it starts off on like this. It's just a random girl in like some hodunk town, and she like you see this mysterious person kind of cloaked in like this green feathery garb, and the person cuts off the head of two horses, and all of a sudden bodies like the rest, like the torsos grow out of these horses, so they become minotaurs or whatever the hell that's called. And or centaurs, what is it, minotaur or centaur?
I want to say Centaur.
Okay, let's go with
Because
centaur
I think
then.
Bull when I think Minotaur.
Yeah, that's probably right.
I also think of, oh, what the fuck? What's that Paul Rudd movie called? It's gone. Anyway.
All right, well, centaurs then. Let's run with centaurs. And anyways, bodies grow out of it, and they become like these kind of death warriors, and they're out to kill this girl. And you find out the reason why they're out to kill him, as Hermes saves her. Apparently, Zeus has impregnated this girl, and she is burying his child. She didn't know she was pregnant yet, and Hermes is the one to save her, like I said. But she kind of teleports to Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman comes back, saves her, saves the day. Everything's good. The three of them are kind of trying to figure out what the hell's going on. They find out that Zeus has cheated on his wife, Hera, or whatever the hell her name is.
Yeah, Hera's right.
Okay, Hera. I wanted to say Hela, but that is a Marvel character, a Marvel goddess of death. Anyways, Hera is her name, and she's Zeus's wife, and I guess Zeus sleeps around, and this is another occurrence, and anytime he sleeps around, she always wants to kill the child of that woman that he slept with, so to speak, because it's obviously somebody Zeus cheated on her with, so she doesn't want that child to be born. And the comic goes on as they're trying to figure out what to do about this, and Wonder Woman eventually finds out, because they tell the tale of her being made of clay, because her mother, whose name I don't remember, because it's kind of hard to pronounce.
Even I don't really remember, to be honest with you.
Yeah, anyways, but her mother, they tell the tale of how Wonder Woman was actually made of clay because her mother couldn't have a female baby for whatever reason. So she forms a baby out of clay. She wishes from the gods for a female baby. She falls asleep, and then she wakes up to a baby waking her up, and that's Wonder Woman. So you just assume that's made of clay. That's the tale they tell. Well, it's later found out as they are all, trying to figure out what's going on, this and that. Wonder Woman finds out from her sister, actually, who is working for Hera because it's her daughter, and she's like evil and all that goodness. And she goes to Paradise Island, Themyscira. Does that sound right? I'm pretty sure that's where Wonder Woman is from. Anyways,
I'm not good with the names.
Don't quote me on it, but they go to Paradise Island. I know that for sure is what the name is. She goes to Paradise Island. All of a sudden, the warriors are all like thinking somebody's attacking them, so they all start attacking. You find out they're just attacking each other. So, damn, what was her sister's name? What was the evil sister's name? Start with an F.
Yeah, and she's important too. She's super fucking important.
I'm just gonna get the book because I'm forgetting names.
I can remember her face perfectly, but
it starts with an F. I know that, but I'm forgetting the damn name. Let's fast forward here. But yeah, the sister. It's actually the sister mind controlling them or fooling them, whatever the hell it is. And they're actually killing each other, and they find Wonder Woman lets them know that, so eventually they stop, but a few of them die. And if I can find her name somewhere in here, hopefully in reasonable time. The hell is her name? It's bothering me.
Yeah, I'll bust out my Kindle, see if I can find I'm so afraid to turn this fucking thing on since it's linked to my phone. Strife.
Strife. It wasn't an F, but okay. All right. Strife is the name. I will cut out that whole bit so nobody's waiting there for a minute. But yes, Strife. Definitely not an F. I was way off.
Well, I mean, I see where you got the F from.
Yes.
It's a very hard F.
Yes. Anyways, it's a hard fucking. Anyway, Strife goes there. She fools them all. They're all attacking each other, and I guess she can like change size and grow insanely big. Anyways, so they all kind of calm down. Strife is talking to Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman finds out that she was actually not made of clay. It turns out she is Strife's sister, so which would mean Zeus had sex with Wonder Woman's mom, who told her that she was made of clay or whatever. So another affair. And the reason why she lied to Wonder Woman was so that the evil wife of... Well, she's not really evil. She's just scorned and pissed off that her husband's cheating on her.
Understandably so.
Yes, understandably. So which is why I had to clarify, not necessarily evil. She's just justifiably pissed off. Mother wouldn't have killed her for being, a bastard child or whatever you want to call it. So that's the reason why she lied to her. Wonder Woman freaks out. She leaves. Zeus, the uh, woman scorned mother or wife of Zeus comes to Paradise Island and ends up turning Wonder Woman's mother into stone and all the warriors into snakes. Wonder Woman goes back to apologize, and it's too late, and she's all sad and goodness, and then I guess, some guy comes around. I don't remember what his name was. Some like grizzled vet comes around, and he comes up with a plan basically with Hermes, Wonder Woman, and Zola, the lady with the child from Zeus. And they're all in on it, and they all figure out something. Basically, they want to try and get Poseidon and Hades to be rule the heavens in Zeus's absence and have the woman scorned be both of their wives. Basically, Poseidon would rule it during the day, Hades would rule it at night. So it'd be kind of something new and interesting, dual kingship, so to speak. And neither of them go for that, and they kind of laugh it off. And then Hades ends up kidnapping. Well, I guess I should mention the wife scorned comes down and freaks out in front of all of them, but then they somehow, I didn't really understand this part. The grizzled veteran dude pulls off a candle from Hades' head, throws it to Wonder Woman. Then Hermes throws Wonder Woman a staff, lights the candle and throws it at the lady. And I don't remember how that worked out, but then it looked like Wonder Woman was in her like kingdom, and she was like freaking out, how dare you come here, this, that, and the other thing. And then it turns out Wonder Woman was a hologram. I don't know. They didn't really explain how all that was exactly working.
It's not clear. The only thing that's clear is there was a setup, and it was a clear betrayal.
Right. It was both of them. Yes, it was all a ruse to get her blinded or whatever. And then it kind of ends off with, let me check. I'm trying to remember. I had it in my mind just a second ago, because it was left on a little bit of a cliffhanger ending. Oh yeah, Hades kidnaps Zola, the woman with the child, and Wonder Woman's got to go save her and all that. That's kind of how they leave off. And the wife of Zeus is all scorned and further pissed off. And Wonder Woman says she's going to spend the rest of her life, making her regret turning her mother into stone and all that goodness. So they kind of leave off on a cliffhanger in that note. But yeah, all in all, and that was a horrible job of recapping, but I hit the main points. But yeah, no.
Well, it's not really a coherent story to begin with. It's very episodic, so it's hard to. It's like recapping season 2 from Arrow. How do you do it? You know?
Yeah, it was interesting, but yeah, I liked it. I like having all the gods, because everyone knows. I mean, most people should know Greek mythology, so it's interesting seeing like Hades and Zeus and Hermes and all that involved. But yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued. I would maybe check out the next volume. I mean, it was definitely decent. I don't regret reading it, but I don't know. I don't think Wonder Woman's comics, or at least this particular one, grips me as like a character that I'm super like, man, I want to read all of these and never stop type of thing. I don't. With Batman, it's like the stories keep really reeling me in and always have like a hook that makes me want to keep reading. I'm kind of curious to see what happens with Zola and, all the other gods and where's Zeus and this and that and the other thing, but I don't know. What were your thoughts on it?
I liked it. I thought it was very well balanced. I think to me it feels like 3 stories, and I enjoyed all 3 of them. The first story is kind of like Hermes goes to town. He sees the world, fish out of water. Fun stuff. Hermes, I think, was the highlight of the whole comic book, really. Then, of course, you have Wonder Woman trying to deal with her past, trying to deal with personal discrimination against her from her sisters. And that resolves really well. I like kind of where they took that and how she proves herself and how she doesn't take any shit. Just very independent and fun to be around. Very, very, very relaxed character. I mean, with a lot of Wonder Woman adaptations, I feel like there's always a temptation to make her a super bitch. I don't know if you saw Justice League Doom. Not Doom.
Yeah, I did.
Was it Doom? I don't think it was Doom. It's the one based off of Justice League Volume 1. War or something.
I'm pretty sure I did. I think I've seen most, if not all of them. There's a couple Batman most recent ones that I haven't seen, but
It's the one with Darkseid.
yeah, I'm sure I did.
Yeah. But yeah, War, I think is what it was called. And Wonder Woman, I thought was extremely one dimensional and just dumb to a fault. This is not the Wonder Woman we have here. She's very human, very down to earth, very strong, and independent, though. Very cool tempered. I thought it was a really good interpretation of her and not super one dimensional, which I think they've done sometimes in the past. Then there's the third story, which is kind of like a Dukes of Hazzard Zola thing going on, where she's kind of a redneck. She likes to sleep around. She's a lot of fun, a great foil to Wonder Woman. Although maybe foil's not the right word. They do have quite a bit in common. But she's sort of like a country girl, and they kind of play with those three personalities in a very interesting way. Hermes is like your very regal, very sophisticated, soft spoken, elegant. And then you have Zola, which is basically kind of like this charming redneck girl.
Sure.
And you have Wonder Woman, who kind of glues both together in this interesting kind of, I don't know, almost like RPG-esque party, I guess I would call it. It was a lot of fun. Probably the worst part about the story is the plot itself. That's the least interesting thing. Like, I didn't really give a shit about the Hades and Poseidon stuff. I didn't care.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of fun sprinkles, you know, like when Wonder Woman's mother has to fight Zeus with no pants. That was really interesting. That was funny. I was just giggling. He kind of looks like a more grizzled version of the guy from Grey's Anatomy. I was just having a good laugh from that. Then there's also I like the little, you know, Hera being just like hilariously spiteful, just over the top, pissed off at everything. I thought Strife was a really interesting character, where very ambiguous, very gray. Not good, but not necessarily evil. She kind of suits her own purposes. Dangerous, kind of mean spirited, but not really like a dark soul of any type. She just a really nice play on Wonder Woman, and seeing Wonder Woman react to her and that kind of personality, that was a lot of fun to me. Not terribly ambitious. This comic is not going to blow anyone's mind. This comic is purely a good time. Like it's not gonna, you know, it's not a breakthrough by any means. It's just a lot of fun. Although that could change. I have volume 2 and 3. I have not read them yet. That is by design. So
Interesting. I do want to point out, yeah, there was a couple of moments that I really liked that I thought were interesting, funny, or effective. One of them being, I really liked when Hermes was explaining to Zola that Zeus disguises himself as a woman's most desired type of guy, or whatever, most desired mate. And she's like, oh, and he's like, who did he disguise himself for you? Do you have any idea? And she's like, it could have been a truck driver, or like a good pool player. Maybe he was in a band. It's like, look, I like guys, all right? Because, yeah, so basically saying she slept with quite a few people recently of different types.
on the promiscuous
Nobody's
side.
special. Nobody's special. So I thought that was funny, and I thought that was an interesting, fun moment. And the other moment was, I thought they did the whole Wonder Woman's mother and warriors being turned into snakes and her mother being stone. I thought they did that effectively, because you
Yes,
see
I
her
agree.
stepping over the snakes, and you instantly know. Well, I mean, even the cliffhanger when they first leave off, when she's like, "I would love to forgive you, but I can't," and they leave it off there with, you know, her mother on her knees giving Hera the axe, and you think she's gonna cut her head off, but then she doesn't. Then she shows, like, you know, some sincerity, and she's just all sympathy, saying, you know, I would love to forgive you, but I can't. And then they kind of leave it off there, and then next thing you know, you see Wonder Woman coming back a few pages later to apologize, and it's too late. She's stepping over snakes, and you're like, oh god, she turned everybody into snakes. And then the next couple panels over, then you finally see that her mother's just stone in that same pose. So definitely sad. And yeah, I thought they did that effectively. But yeah, those two moments definitely stuck out to me, and I thought were pretty cool.
It was just a lot of fun. I mean, it's definitely not going to win over people who are just not fond of the Wonder Woman concept, but I've always been partial to it. I think a lot of that had to do with the Justice League cartoon, which I still haven't finished watching. I'm like in episode 24 or something like that. I have been for a very long time.
Yeah, that's good.
But that is a very different Wonder Woman, and I think that's something worth talking about. The Justice League Wonder Woman, strong, but very sensitive too. Her sensitivity, I think, is one of her most defining characteristics. And I think the reason they did that is because look at the characters they're dealing with: Batman, Martian Manhunter, Superman, all very testosterone driven. Well, maybe not Martian, but the other two for sure.
Sure.
And the Flash, testosterone driven, but more in like a Porky's 2 kind of way. They really went out of their way to emphasize the effeminate aspects of Wonder Woman, and I think it works great. I think it works fantastically. Not here. Wonder Woman is definitely more tomboyish, but not like a hard cold bitch. Like that, she's very very balanced, has a very down to earth personality. Someone anyone can get along with, so long as they're a reasonable human being, and that's like I think a good target for what you want Wonder Woman to be.
Right.
Do you feel like this interpretation of Wonder Woman is higher or lower than other adaptations in the past? Is this your favorite Wonder Woman?
I mean, I like Wonder Woman as a character, and I thought here was good. I mean, it's nice to see her get kind of the limelight. She's not a supporting cast member. She is the main focus, which is a little bit different feeling. But no, I like the Justice League cartoon version of Wonder Woman. So in that regard, I like I said, I like the character. She's a favorite of mine, but I didn't think this was necessarily any better or any worse. To me, it was just kind of on par with what I know as Wonder Woman, except for here she is the star, which is a little bit different. Because I mean, the cast of characters aren't the Flash, Batman, etc. for her to play off of. She's playing off of other gods and Greek gods, etc. So that was just a little bit different. But no, I thought it was decent, and it's about what I expected in terms of what her character is, and it didn't really shine a new light on her, so to speak, for me. But all right, I can tell by your silence that you agree.
Oh, I forgot to unclick mute. My bad. No, yes. I'm just glad she wasn't a meathead. That was.
Oh
my
yeah,
biggest
yeah,
concern.
sure. All right, well, I would probably give that I'd probably give that a 7.5. I enjoyed it.
6.
6, okay. That fits our curve.
Yeah, that's about right.
It's about
We basically
1.5
gave it the
difference.
same score. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and take over for the Court of Owls.
Okay. It's actually kind of a simple story. It begins with Bruce Wayne talking about what is Gotham, and they keep trying to give it like a more of a title. Gotham is hope. Gotham is whatever. They go on and on about that, and that becomes kind of the theme of the story. It starts on a very positive note. You have all the Robins kind of hanging out at a banquet with Bruce Wayne as he's about to give a speech at a fundraiser. And then he meets the mayor. The mayor seems like a stand-up guy so far. I haven't read Volume 2. I don't know if that changes later on. But and then you sort of delve into this mystery of these murders. It appears these people were tortured, but they're all they're not normal murders. There's no information on these people. There's no identity associated with them. They have no sort of electronic path or tracing. They pay all their rent in cash. They're weird dudes. They're not typical deaths. It's John Doe after John Doe being killed. And then they find just evidence of, these owl emblems. And that's the big mystery of the story. Is the Court of Owls a thing? Batman, Bruce Wayne, he insists that it is not. It is a myth. It is not real. And they go into his backstory of because when he was a kid, he was convinced the Court of Owls was the organization that killed his parents. And he investigated it as a child, and it ended up backfiring in a big way. Because A, he didn't find anything, so that closure never came. But B, he ended up getting trapped in this, I think, this abandoned warehouse for weeks. And he was in the hospital for a very long time recovering from that. So it was sort of like a double blow. Not amazing for young Bruce Wayne. So that's sort of the real conflict. It's not really fighting the Court of Owls. It's Bruce Wayne coming to terms with the fact that the Court of Owls is a real thing, and his past is intertwined with it. And as we find out at the very end of the story, probably the biggest spoiler we got here is that Robin, Dick Grayson's grandfather, was part of the Court of Owls, as was the whole lineage. That's what the whole circus setup was to train Talons, which is sort of the main villain, or at least the frontline villain of the Court of Owls, and that's essentially where it ends. You know, you're given that mystery, and it kind of ends with Bruce Wayne being an asshole and Robin walking out. And just, I guess, to rewind a bit, Bruce Wayne is an asshole because he was captured indirectly by the Court of Owls, and he was basically drugged and was hallucinated for most of the issue. I have a lot to say about that about that because not the funnest reading experience I've ever had. I'll go into that in a little while, but it sounds like by the end of the story, he has come to terms with the Court of Owls, but he kind of came out broken. It kind of even they spell it out for you even because they tell the new Talon that you're coming back to life, but you're coming back stronger. Bruce Wayne is coming back to life metaphorically, but he's coming back broken, and that is very much what you see at the end of it. Bruce Wayne is super broken after this. He's bitter. He punches Dick in the face. He's basically obsessed. And in many ways, he's regressing. He's becoming the broken child who saw his parents die. He's kind of reverting back into that. And I mean, there's a couple of logic problems with this story, but they don't matter. It's a very good story. I enjoyed it very much so. Thoughts, Cyborg? Or thoughts, Stefan? Stefan. No, Stefan. Today it'll be Stefan.
It's been like 4 years since I've read this, but so to me it's a little bit hazy, but I do remember loving this quite a bit, and this continues into the second volume, which I'm sure we'll get to in time. But I know I really enjoyed this, and I thought it was insanely good. For some reason, Scott Snyder to me has just done amazing work, and I thought the artwork from Greg Capullo is just really, really good. And I don't know, just Scott Snyder's writing style just really has me intrigued. He knows how to have like really great cliffhangers issue to issue for me to want to keep reading more. Like, I do not want to put him down. I've read, I think, 40 issues into the New 52, and I kept up with it through its monthly releases for quite a long time. I haven't read like the last 7 issues, so I'm a little bit behind, but no, he's just really, really good at telling a story, and he tells it in a very different it's very methodical in its approach, and it really dives deep into like Bruce Wayne's psyche, his mind, and they play with that quite a bit. And I thought the whole Court of Owls is really interesting because for the longest time, if you watch movies, you watch the cartoons, if you watch the live action stuff or whatever, you only get the classic villains, and he has a lot of good classic villains of 15 to 20 of pretty classic characters that most people would recognize, especially if you watch the animated series. But Court of Owls is completely new, so I thought that was fascinating to see a completely new set of villains, or whatever you want to consider them, a group within Gotham, and the whole idea that they've been around for so long underneath Gotham is really, really fascinating. And you mentioned something about him being hallucinating and a poor reading experience. What were you implying with that?
Yeah, because Batman's kind of going crazy. They don't really tell you directly, but it's very much implied he's been down in this labyrinth, or we don't really know if it's a labyrinth or if he just sees the labyrinth because he's been drugged so badly. But he's been down there for weeks. They did this little collage of all the main Batman heroines and heroes worrying about him. It shows, Commissioner Gordon saying it's been 8 days and he still hasn't shown up, and it shows him standing next to the bat signal. And Harvey's like, when are we going to take it down? And Commissioner Gordon says, we're not going to. Here's the problem. The more crazy Batman gets, the more the panels start to fuck around. And that's cool. That's a really, really brilliant idea, in my opinion. So eventually, like, at first the panels are on their side, so you have to read the dialogue sideways. Then when he gets really crazy, the panels are straight up upside down. Now, that sounds cool, but if you have a fucking tablet, do you know what happens when you turn your tablet upside down? It fucking autocorrects. That's a problem, okay? So, yeah, it became a headache. So what I had to do is I had to fucking move my tablet in yoga poses just so I could get the dialogue right. And it was rough, man, not gonna lie. And keep in mind, I'm on a I'm on a huge time crutch because I finished reading Court of Owls roughly about 8 to 10 minutes before we hit the record button. Um, so yeah, like I'm fucking like doing the
Oh, that's
tea
great.
tree pose, like trying to fucking just ugh.
That's great.
Yeah, it was rough,
See,
man.
I thought that work, like the panel work, and how they synced it up with kind of him losing his mind and the drugs and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was amazing and phenomenal. And I remember reading reviews as each issue came out, and people were praising that because that was really, in my opinion, was very very clever, very awesome way to do that. Granted, I didn't think about tablet users because I didn't I didn't read it on a tablet. So you can, I'm pretty sure in settings in on a tablet you can set it so it doesn't, like, the screen is locked where it doesn't flip around by flipping the tablet. By the
Dude,
way,
there was no time, man. Like, it took me like 5 minutes to find out that Wonder Woman's half sister was Strife. Like, there was no fucking way I was gonna be able to go through settings and find that.
I'm sure it's pretty easy in settings.
I'm sure it
A
is,
minute or
but
two.
I was nervous and I got scared, Cyborg. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, anyways, I thought that was really no, I thought that was really amazing. So yeah, to me, I just loved everything about this, and the story gets better, and it does not stop because it leads from one really good story arc with the Court of Owls and to another good story arc. So it keeps hitting. So I love Batman the New 52. It's, if you look at the reviews for each issue in the Batman New 52 line, they're all, there's nothing lower than a 7.5, but most of them hit like 9s and 10s or 8.5s because they just do amazing work. Unfortunately, Snyder and Capullo are finally leaving Batman after the next issue, which is unfortunate. But man, I think they're at like 50 now. They're 50, 51, something around there, 49. So
I'll keep going. I have no reason to stop reading.
it's
I want
pretty
to keep
amazing
going.
stuff. I really, really enjoy it. I'm really wanting to read the the Black Mirror, and that was written by Scott Snyder as well before the Court of Owls, before the New 52 came around. I've had that graphic novel for a while, but I've never read it yet. But I've heard that's really good, so that will be on our list eventually and at some points. But so, what would you grade it?
Well, before we get to that, you bring up an extremely good point. It was very fast paced, which is good and bad. This comic feels like an action comic, head to toe. It goes by extremely fast. Part of me wishes it had taken its time, and it doesn't help the fact that I read this whole thing in like less than an hour. But I kind of wish they had slowed down for some of the more emotional moments. Like the Robin stuff is wrapped up really quickly. It's like 2 pages, and Robin enters the room, finds out his grandfather's the Talon. Batman punches him in the face. His tooth gets knocked out. He sees the owl emblem. Just a lot happens, and I think they should have slowed down a bit. But I understand the economy of comic book issues. You can only put in so much. Another thing is the animation is really not. I'm sorry. The art is very good. The art is excellent.
Oh yeah,
Except when they get to the faces. Now, it's not Dark Victory bad, where Joker has like 4-inch teeth coming out of his mouth. But their facial expressions don't necessarily look natural. The eyes, especially. Like, sometimes the characters look like they're half asleep in the middle of a conversation. Other times the characters look like they're being fondled. And they're kind of on the fence of whether they enjoy it or not. They're not sure. I don't know why it looks like that sometimes. And like, I don't know, Robin, even when he's wearing the mask, I'm sorry, Nightwing, even when he's wearing the mask, his mouth looks a little derpy, and I'm not sure why. I think they're trying to show that he's young looking, maybe. But he's got this weird smile. And sometimes it works. When Batman's going crazy, it's almost like a Ren and Stimpy kind of art style, where he's got the 5 o'clock shadow, his eyes bulging. He's making this like really like drunken, crazed, like mouth wide open facial expression. It was a little distracting, but it worked. It worked very well. It's a minor nitpick. The animation overall is beautiful, the way the colors come together. Anytime the Court of Owls or the Talon is on the page, it looks beautiful. The lighting and the shading is amazing.
yeah. I love a lot of the colors, especially when he's doing. I loved when he had the glow sticks, like when he's searching around. Like those make everything look really awesome. When he's in the maze and all that stuff, or whatever you want to call that thing looked really, really cool. So yeah, just some really interesting stuff.
And I know Django said he would like the Talon as an Injustice character. under the condition that it was Tim Drake. I don't know. I don't know if I'm sold on that. I see why he likes the character. I don't know if I'm in love with the Talon. I think the Talon's a better plot device than a character. But it's interesting though. I think from a combat standpoint, he could be really interesting with the knives and shit.
Yeah, I think the Talon he's referring to is the Talon that's from its own comic book line, because Talon eventually got its own series, and
Interesting.
it was a Talon that went rogue, so it was actually a good guy. But I don't know. It's been a while.
Hey, that sounds cool. That sounds awesome.
That could be. I don't know if that's what he was referring to, but I know that was its own series. I never read it, but that was a thing. I think it was written by Snyder as well, but I don't know. I don't think I ever got that one. But what would you rate this one? Or grade
Uh,
it, or
I'm gonna give it a 6.5. The only thing that really works against it is it does not feel like a complete story, so it's hard to give it a sky high rating. It ends very abruptly, and it's
sure.
supposed to. It's part of a comic book series. I didn't expect anything otherwise, but 6.5 is a really fucking good score. As a matter of fact, in retrospect, I probably gave Wonder Woman too high of a score now that I think about it more. But even though I really do enjoy it, I understand it's not the deepest comic book, but it was really good. I think if someone's just getting into Batman, this is a good starting point. You will not get bored.
Yeah, no. If I was comparing Wonder Woman with Court of Owls just to me, and maybe it's bias of being much more into like Batman and his mythos and his characters and just how he's written. But I, for whatever reason, just his like the Court of Owls left me with a lot more feeling like I chewed on a lot more, if that makes sense. Like I really I felt like I got more out of it, whereas Wonder Woman was more of just like a face value. This is what's going on. Whereas Batman, like they had a lot of twists and turns and mind fucks to it that it just felt like a very different experience reading it.
Well, I guess maybe one more complaint I might have is I feel like they did a good job of lifting off the plot armor because Bruce Wayne is so set in stone that the Court of Owls is not a real thing, and that was cool. It's nice to see Batman be wrong for once, kind of like in Skyfall. I'm not a big James Bond fan, but I like that movie a lot because it made James Bond interesting for the first time in decades. Because for the first time, James Bond is not very good at his job, and that to me is a much more interesting story. With Batman, um, they lift the plot armor a bit, and that was really cool. Even if it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, if you think about why he doesn't believe in the Court of Owls, it doesn't really add up. Because Robin's like, or Darkwing, Nightwing's like, why are you so convinced there's no Court of Owls? And basically his response is, because my 8-year-old criminal investigation proved inconclusive. And I'm like, really? That's the best you got? Like, okay, fine, I'll roll with it. And then at the very end, unfortunately, they stacked the plot armor right back on in layers. Because honestly, I didn't buy the whole escape. I didn't buy it. I'm like, there's no way. I'm sorry. You're drugged. You're dehydrated. And then out of nowhere, he beats the fuck out of Talon, just out of the blue, and he escapes. And Harper, who I've never heard of, ends up saving him from drowning. I just didn't buy that. Didn't hurt. I mean, it's a logic problem, but it doesn't hurt the story, in my opinion. I'm ready for stuff like this when it's Batman. So yeah, that's really the only other problem I had. Yeah, it was good. I mean, it's just fun. It's just a good action movie. It's a good, fast-paced roller coaster of a comic book story. Probably the most well-paced comic book I've read in a while. I wish it had slowed down in parts, but I just finished reading The Spectre a few days ago, and that pacing was the opposite. It kind of dragged a bit. Not a lot was happening in certain pockets. Yeah, good stuff. Any thoughts on that specifically, Stefan?
Um, no, I mean you're not wrong. I mean, I guess I really did enjoy it, and I didn't think of it as needing to slow down in a sense. I mean, I because I think when I jumped on it, it was about 5 or 6 issues in when I first started reading the Batman in 52. Because it was about 6 issues in after the relaunch, so I caught it by issue 6 is when I think that's about when I first jumped on. Um,
Okay.
because yeah, I was still relatively new at that point. But no, I enjoyed it. I didn't. I don't really. I don't know. Your nitpicks I can't really argue with, but they're not nitpicks that I share, so to speak. I don't know. If I were giving this a rating, I'd probably give it a 9. I really really enjoyed it, and I do have the other volume. Like I'm trying to think of just that volume in like a can, like just put by itself, and I just remember having a lot of fun with it. But yeah, there's another volume that's gonna go even further with it, but we will get to that in time. But that leads us to our recommendations for next time, which I'm not sure when the next time we'll record here in the next couple weeks or so, I would assume.
Yeah, I imagine like
And
second week of April probably.
something like that. Anyways, we will be covering Daredevil next time for sure. The series, or season 2, I mean. We will be giving our thoughts on Batman vs Superman, and then looking towards X-Men, I think, at that time. But yeah, let me think of.
I know we were talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths. I think was a suggestion we had for next. Just kind of go off the Superman thing a bit. That was one possibility. Did you want to stick with that, or did you have two other comic suggestions in mind?
Trying to think. Crisis on Infinite Earths. I mean, I don't have anything opposed to that. Gonna try and think.
We could do the Spectre. I just finished reading that. And this is the 90s run of Spectre specifically, so and it's long too. It's fucking like 12 issues or something. Took me a good while, but that's a possibility. While you're thinking about that, I recommend you listeners watch 10 Cloverfield Lane. I don't know if we're deciding if we're going to talk about that because I know Cyborg or Stefan, you said you were on the fence about if you're going to be able to see that or not.
Well, I want to see it, but it's gonna be a matter of when I will be able to see it.
I would play it safe and check it out, guys. I would listen. I would watch it if you can. If you can't, it'll be the last thing we talk about next episode. We'll save it for last because that's a movie I really don't want to spoil.
So yes, if you're gonna comment on that movie, save it for next time, please.
Yes, please do.
Let me suggest. Let's do something Daredevil, in the sake of Daredevil. Let's
Okay.
do. Let's do Daredevil Yellow. It's just called Daredevil Yellow. That's a short one. I think it's like maybe 6 issues, probably length of a volume, if not a little bit less. I don't even remember, but I know that one's a really, really good one. By really, really good, I mean it's good. I don't want to hype anybody up too much,
Yeah.
but no, it's good. And then we can do Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, that works. I
So
mean,
we'll do something DC, something Marvel, kind of keep it. We'll do one more Batman, Superman-y themed one, and then we'll do a Daredevil themed, and then next time maybe we'll do something X-Men related and stuff like that to kind of jump into that. Try and stick, well, we can stick somewhat relevant to what's coming out at the time.
yeah, something very relevant to the characters we're about to see in the film. I could use some Psylocke in my life. I never read the comics, but I read a lot of the summaries back in the really early 2000s when you couldn't really easily get comics online.
Sure.
I loved that shit. I thought it was amazing, but yeah, for sure.
Well, do you remember when X-Men comes out?
I want to say May, but I'm not sure, honestly.
Is it that long? I thought X-Men was before.
Oh, it could be. Let's see.
X-Men Apocalypse. May 27th, you're right. Okay, so Civil War would be next. I thought it was, for some reason I thought Apocalypse was April. So then I
We
guess
can read Civil War. I mean, that's dirt
Yeah.
cheap right now on Amazon.
and I have Civil War. So yeah, let's do. Well, then since we just did Batman and Wonder Woman, actually, then let's do for next time. Let's do Civil War and Daredevil Yellow.
Gotcha.
So we'll
Okay,
keep it
yeah.
related to both of those. All right, so Civil War next time and Daredevil Yellow. I also want to get into Daredevil's current run because I've heard amazing things by it, and I have like the first 3 volumes. I think I've only read the first one, and I really dug it, but that was a long time ago. So that's something I'd actually want to read and keep reading and keep going with because I've heard great things, and it gets very dark and gritty and very depressing because Daredevil hits a lot of like very tough subjects. So anyways, but we'll start with Daredevil Yellow because from what I remember of that one, it covers a nice... It kind of recaps his origins, but it tells it in a nice way, and it kind of does it in a very interesting fashion. So that's a short, fun read of Daredevil and gets you into the character. If you haven't read any Daredevil, that's a nice starter to kind of show you how fun the character can be to read. And then Civil War, which I have not read. I know some of the things that happen in the Civil War comic, but I've not actually sat down and read through it. So that'll be a treat leading into the movie. So, anyways, on that note, guys, thanks for tuning in. And as always, suggestions are welcome. We will take your suggestions in time. Nobody think that we're just ignoring you. There's a lot to get to and want to keep it somewhat thematic. So leading into Injustice the game, if it's announced in the upcoming months, obviously that's going to take us back to a DC swing. So we will get to Infinite Earths and all that goodness and a lot of other good stuff. So, but I feel like now after Batman vs Superman, we should probably jump on the Marvel front for a few months, because once Injustice comes around, we're going to be reading a lot of DC again.
And it's going to be a long episode next time, too. I mean, we're probably both going to have a lot to say.
Well, we got, Batman vs. Superman, then going to cover Daredevil, and yeah, so we'll have some good stuff to talk about then.
Hopefully Cloverfield. I mean, it's not a guarantee, guys.
I hope so.
I do hope we cover it.
But all right, guys, thanks for tuning in to the Strip Show, and enjoy.
Thanks for joining, guys. Y'all take care.
Adios.